We're dinking around with Eddie and Webby. Dinking around with Eddie and Webby tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hey, how's it going? This is Webby, not Eddie.
And I'm Eddie, and this is our 75th Dinking Around.
Oh, yeah, episode number 75, and I cannot believe we already reached this milestone for dinking around. Can you?
I can't either. And can you please tell Baby Yoda to shut up? I mean, why does he keep talking? Gosh. But doesn't Baby Yoda actually have a real name and it's not Baby Yoda?
Yeah, I think it's like Grogu or something like that, but I prefer Baby Yoda.
Me too. You know what else I prefer, Webby?
What's that?
Playing with Volair paddles. Because, guys, I got to tell you, this podcast wouldn't be possible without our friends over at Volair. And if you want to get your hands on some of the best paddles in the game, you definitely should go to Volair.com and check it out. And you can get paddles like this. This is actually my Mach 1 16 millimeter that I play with every time I go out to the court. I love it. It's a perfect balance of power, touch, and spin. It suits my game very well. Webby, what have you been playing with lately?
Well, when I play singles, I like to play with the Mach 1 Forza, kind of like the one you see behind me. This is the Kyle Yates Pink Edition. I love the look of that one. But when I play doubles, I really like playing with the Mach 2 Forza. That is the shorter, wider-bodied paddle. It has a huge sweet spot, great spin, and excellent control, and I absolutely love that paddle.
Well, guys, you can absolutely love your paddle if you go to Volair.com and use coupon code PB for life to get 10% off your order. You're also going to be able to get your hands on some of the best pickleball paddles and gear in the game. I love them. Again, Volair.com, coupon code PB for life.
That's right. But Eddie, I have a question for you.
What in the world is in that drink? What you got in that drink?
That's right. What in the world is in that drink? So, Eddie, I would love to know, the world would love to know, what will you be sipping on tonight?
Webby, summer is almost over. Well, down here in Florida, it's year-round. But for the rest of the country, technically summer is almost over. And so we're about to end Eddie's summer of seltzers. But now that I'm back home, back in Naples, I do want to be able to have a seltzer from our good friends over at Fort Myers Brewing Company. This is their spiked hard seltzer line. I love all of the flavors. This is their watermelon flavor, which I'm a big fan of, and that's what I'm going to be sipping on today. What about you? What are you going to be drinking today, Webby?
Well, I've been in a mood for trying things I've never tried before, so today that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to try something I have never had before. This is made by Bell's Brewery, and it is Oberon Sunshine Tropical Shandy. I saw this at the store the other day. It caught my eye, so I figured, you know what? I'm going to try this on the pod, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I already have it poured here, but cheers, Eddie. Cheers, everybody tuning in.
Cheers. Webby, I got to ask too, do you typically like shandies? Or let's say you're out at a bar or a restaurant, or you're reaching into a cooler and you see a shandy over like an IPA or something. Will you typically go for it, or are you almost always going to go for the other kind of beer?
I almost always go for the other kind of beer unless like I'm out on the lake or it's a hot summer day, sitting by the pool. Things like that, when it's a really hot day and I'm outdoors, I do tend to go for a shandy in those scenarios, but it is still peak summertime here in Michigan, nice and hot outside, so it's a good time of year to get this. And immediately, I can smell the tropicalness, I guess you could say, because this is a tropical shandy. Come on. but it smells great if you like tropical type stuff. And my first sip was very refreshing and very tasty, and I'm liking it.
Does it have an Oberon taste to it? Because Oberon in itself, being a wheat beer, is going to give you a little bit of that orangey, fruity kind of flavor just from the wheat. Does it have a lot of that Oberon flavor, or is it mostly just kind of like a muted beer with lemonade?
Honestly, it does not taste a lot like Oberon to me. It's mostly fruity, lighter, and refreshing. So I think it's tasty, but I do not get a whole lot of Oberon flavor. Like if I was blindfolded and drank this, I would not think of Oberon. That being said, I still like it a lot though. Oberon is another drink that I really only drink in the summertime when it's hot outside. And if given the choice between the two, I think if it was a super, super hot day, I would probably go with this shandy. It's really nice and refreshing. Otherwise, I might go with the Oberon. But both very solid choices, and I'm liking it. Good job, Bells.
Very nice. If you guys are having a drink while you're listening or watching this, let us know in the comments below. But speaking of fruity, light, and refreshing, Webby, I got a question for you. What time is it?
Now it's time for Memes of the Week. Yeah!
That's right. It's the hottest segment in all of Pickleball podcasts, Memes of the Week. There's so many good memes out there. Webby, what did you choose for this week?
It is from our friends over at Different Pickleball, and this is a video called Playing Against a Couple That Clearly Hates Each Other.
461.
Yeah, might as well have just started with 462, am I right? Fourth serve you missed today. When we get home, I'm gonna strangle you.
Just kidding.
You guys want to play 2v1 or something? You can sit out, babe. You know, play on your phone or something. You can do Pinterest. She likes that. Let's go. Just us.
Are you okay? That guy's being really mean to you. Yeah, it's just my boyfriend.
Hey, sorry. It's her first time, so.
No, it's not.
Well, she's a beginner, is what I mean. Wait, no, come back. You have to do the Dink Different part with me.
Dink different.
Great. That was great.
It's so funny.
It cracks me up because it's one of those things where it's funny because it's true, because I have played with a lot of couples in rec play that clearly do not get along on the pickleball court. I'm sure they get along totally fine maybe outside of pickleball, but on the pickleball court, they just hate each other.
Yeah, I've experienced that as well, and it's super uncomfortable when you're playing against them, but it's also kind of funny and kind of fun to just put them in situations where you know they're going to just go at it with each other. I get a kick out of it.
But great job, Dink Different. I love those videos. Keep them coming. But what about you, Eddie? What kind of memes you got?
It's starting to become a thing, Webby, where I feel like I have to play Memes of Pickleball memes because they're so freaking good. And honestly, there were a ton to be able to choose from, but I think I found one that I'm just going to go ahead and play it. The title is Thoughts and Prayers for Federico Steckscrewed.
Oh, man.
Ouch. Oh, no.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
For those tuning in the audio form, basically, he got hit below the belt directly, squarely on the jewels, and the replay that Memes of Pickleball did, it cracked me up, especially when it went, and then I like how at the very end he threw in one more close-up replay.
Yep. I mean, here's the thing, is that he was not anticipating the ball there at all, so his paddle was way away from that area, and he also, during his split step, kind of like thrusted forward right before as well, just to give that extra couple centimeters of less distance between the ball and that area. That, I mean, my stomach hurts right now after watching that.
Oh, man. Very painful, but very funny with the editing you did. Memes of Pickleball, so nicely done. Great work, as always. But before we move on to the next segment, I do want to give a quick little shout-out here to our friends over at Jojo+Lo. They were nice enough to send us some T-shirts, and I am wearing one of those T-shirts right now. And if you don't know Jojo+Lo, they are a clothing and apparel brand in the pickleball world. They're based out of Michigan, which is where Eddie is originally from and where I currently reside, so always love to support local businesses, and they're killing it in the pickleball space. So thank you, Jojo+Lo.
Webby, I got to tell you, big fan of Jojo+Lo, but I actually understand now why people can never tell if either one of us are Eddie or Webby, and they always are like, wait, are you Eddie? Are you Webby? Because I've met them now twice, and I still to this day cannot remember who's Joe and who's Lo. So
I know. I feel so bad. The same thing happens. Same thing happens with me, and I felt really bad. I did a tournament that they put on earlier this year, and I asked one of the tournament directors a question, and then they said, "Oh, you're gonna want to ask JoJo." So I went over, and I thought I was talking to JoJo, and I was like, "Hey," and then I asked her the question, and she was like, "Oh, you probably want to talk to JoJo." And I was like, "Damn it! I did it again."
It's the problem when you have two people of the same gender that their names are part of it. It just I could see now why it could be confusing. So
Yeah, especially when they rhyme, like Eddie,
Yeah.
Webby, Jojo+Lo. I mean, yeah, it makes it extra confusing for everybody else. So yeah, I get it now as well.
That's great. Webby, can I do a shout out as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, unless you've been living under a rock, you have now heard that Close Call Replay has been officially hired by the UPA to do line challenges at almost all events for both PPA and MLP starting in September through the rest of 2024. The first event's going to be PPA Atlanta, which starts, I believe, on September 11th. And we're going to do all the rest PPA MLP events for the entire year, except for the events in Las Vegas in October. Super excited about that. Big thanks to you, Webby, for being part of our crew at Beer City Open. I think that's where we were able to really demonstrate the full value of our system. Obviously, the referees loved it. The fans loved it. The players loved it, except for those that want to try and hook or get caught doing it. They don't love it. But super excited about that. I hope you guys are too. Kyle Salenko and I, my partner in that, we've been working our butts off to try and get this system out there. It's finally come to fruition. We're super excited to be part of both PPA and MLP.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Congratulations. You and Kyle definitely have worked your butts off to get this up and running, and I'm glad that the fruits of your labor are finally happening.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate all of you out there for really encouraging us and also commenting about how much you want it. Super grateful for all that. So thank you.
Very cool. But with that being said, does everybody know what time it is?
Now it's time for Topics of the Week.
That's right. Topics of the week. This is where Eddie and I each bring a topic to discuss. So, Eddie, let's go ahead and start with you. What do you want to talk about today?
Oh, I got one. It's a good one. I brought up a couple episodes ago how we're starting to see the rise of a right side dominant aggressive player in men's doubles pickleball. If you guys don't remember that, go back and listen to that episode. And I think we're starting to see just an overall higher level of aggressive hard play in men's doubles. For example, this past weekend, you had Christian Alshon and Kwang Dong beat Ben and Collin Johns. So my question for you is kind of twofold. Number one, do you think that is going to be a new trend for at least the next little bit? And number two, if that happens, is the reign of the Johns brothers over?
Great question. And my answer is yes. I do think that trend is going to continue. And I do think the reign of Ben and Collin is coming to an end. They haven't been winning as much lately, so we're already seeing evidence of that. And yeah, I absolutely think that things are a-changing.
Well, I mean, I feel like Ben and Collin were kind of the first men's doubles team to really double down on having that aggressive left side player in men's doubles and more of the set player, almost like playing similar to mixed doubles on the men's double court. And that has been a trend that they've used to dominate for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
But now, obviously, the aggressive play has really stepped up, and it almost looks a little bit more like women's doubles, like that Christian Alshon and Kwang Dong match against them last weekend. I feel like we saw a different style of play. I think part of it has to do with the paddles. Before the paddles, you weren't able to hit the ball that close to the net that hard while keeping it in bounds, but now you can put so much spin on the ball that you are able to hit, and also you can hit the crap out of the ball. So combining those two, I think we're just seeing a different style, and I just don't think Ben and Collin have adapted to it. Do you think that if we start to see this to be more and more of a trend and they lose maybe 1, 2, 3 more times to play to teams that play like that, do you think that Ben and Collin are going to adapt their game, or do you think Ben is just going to say at this point, I got to find a different partner altogether, like a Hayden Patriquin, a Gabe Tardio, something like that?
I would think that they would adapt their game. I feel like they got to at least try adapting. If they make changes and they just can't get them to work, then I could see Ben moving on and trying to partner up with somebody else. But I feel like with the chemistry that they have, you gotta at least try it, try adapting, see what you can do. Because I do feel like for the most part, like over the years, they've been great at like learning their opponents and then adapting. Lately, they've been struggling though with that. So yeah, try some different things, but if it doesn't work, I do think Collin's days as Ben's partner could be numbered.
Well, I was excited for Christian and Kwong. I think that their style of play worked against Ben and Collin. I think that we're going to see a big trend with that. But it doesn't really matter what I think. It matters a little bit more what Webby thinks, but not that much. What really matters is what you guys think. Let us know down in the comments below. Do you think that men's doubles is going to change once again? Is it going to become a much more aggressive style of play like we've seen in women's doubles? And is the reign of Ben and Collin over? And I guess on top of that, is Ben going to ditch Collin? Or is Ben and Collin going to work together to try and adapt to this new style of play? Let us know down below. Webby, that was my topic this week, but I really want to get into your topic this week.
All right, so my topics are typically more on the lighthearted side, but tonight I kind of want to talk about something a little more controversial, a little deeper than usual. So over the years, anybody who's tuned into our podcast, you know that anytime USA Pickleball has done things that made us scratch our heads or stuff that we thought was not good for the sport overall, we were not afraid to bring those up. In fact, I was told that some of our episodes in the past brought some attention to different topics and helped make some changes for the better. So I think that it's only fair that we do the same for the United Pickleball Association when they do things that seem questionable or seem like they might not be the greatest for the sport. So I have a few different topics I wanted to bring up and just briefly talk about each of them. And first off, I feel kind of bad for our buddy, Jason Aspis. He was recently on the show. I feel like he's really got his work cut out for him because there's been some bad PR lately with UPA and some of the things that they've done and some situations that have gone on. So I do feel bad and I do not envy Jason right now. So I'm going to start off by saying that. But first off, there's been a lot of talk about UPA testing out and possibly making big changes to help de-weaponize the serve in pickleball. So I want to bring that up and talk about that a little bit. Secondly, they issued a cease and desist to our good buddy Chris Callie at Sorry Not Sorry Pickleball. So we'll discuss that a little bit. And to add to all that, UPA has gotten called out for potentially shady practices when it comes to approving paddles. So kind of a lot to unpack there, but let's go over each of those three things briefly. The first one was them testing out ways to de-weaponize the serve in pickleball. There were some pictures that were posted that showed some lines that they had added to a pickleball court to where it looked like there was a box that was maybe towards the back third of the court, and word on the street is that was supposed to be like the new serve box zone potentially, to where like when you serve it has to hit that area. So it just got me thinking, like, what would you think if something that drastic got added to the game to where when you serve it has to hit a much smaller part of the court? And secondly, if we really want to de-weaponize the serve, should we do something like where everybody has to do a drop serve? Because that would really prevent a lot of the things that people have problems with when it comes to the serve in pickleball today.
Yeah, this is a great topic too, because I'm a pickleball purist. However, I do like the fact that UPA is willing to experiment with different things. I am also a proponent that the serve should not be a weapon. I think it's a detriment to the sport when it drastically changes the outcome of a point. However, I will say that if we are going to make the serve more challenging by making it a smaller area that it has to enter, things like that, the opposite can be true, and that is if it's a weaker serve, now you're going to have a stronger return of serve for the, for the receiving team. And that just means that they're going to have deeper returns. They're going to have harder to drop returns, and it's going to give themselves plenty of time to get to the line. So, for example, let's just say right now, every single pro game, they had to just do like a very easy lofty serve. I would think that these games would last a very long time because you already have an advantage as the receiver of a serve, because you can get up to the line faster, and that's where pickleball is won, is at the line. So I think that if we're gonna nerf the serve, we're gonna see longer games. We're going to see where the receiving team is at a huge advantage because they're going to be able to do a lot more with the returns of serve to give them a huge advantage. And I think that that could also be to the detriment of the sport. So I don't know that there's a great solution here. I think all solutions to try and nerf the serve or de-weaponize are going to have a little bit of a negative impact on the sport. So to your point, Webby, should we then experiment with just going to a drop serve? Is that the way that we could that we could solve this? I don't know that I'm totally sold on that. I'd really have to kind of see it in practice, but could that be a possibility that UPA should experiment with? I don't know, maybe. What's your take on all that?
Yeah, I definitely do not like the idea of having a smaller designated section towards the back of the court where the serve must land to be a legal serve. That I'm not a big fan of. And I'm not so sure if that was even super realistic that was going to take off. It might have just been something they were playing around with just to see. But like you said, I do appreciate the fact that UPA is willing to test out different things and see what seems like the right choice to make. So we'll see what choice they do end up making. When it comes to the drop serve, I do think that would be quite a drastic thing to require everybody to use the drop serve. But to be honest, I wouldn't be totally opposed to that because I think when people are new to pickleball, that is the absolute best way for them to start serving. If they struggle with doing like a regular traditional serve, I feel like everybody can pick up on drop serving a lot easier. But I do think once you master it, you can still get a pretty aggressive serve doing the drop serve. In fact, I remember when that first became a legal type of serve, a lot of people complained like, oh, people are going to weaponize the serve if they do a drop serve. I feel like it was proven that really wasn't the case after a while. I mean, you can, like, some people can do a really strong serve doing a drop serve, but I feel like for the most part, you didn't really see many people doing it and using it as a weapon like people thought that they were. So I feel like that probably wouldn't be a super popular decision if they did that, but I think that could be the easiest way for them to implement a way to de-weaponize the serve. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if they play around with it and see what decision they come to with that. It'll be very interesting to see how that goes. So that brings us to the second thing I brought up, and that was Chris Cali of Sorry Not Sorry. He posted a video saying that he got a cease and desist from UPA, saying that he could no longer use their footage and basically do his show. And that was basically going to be the end of his show if that's what happened. Luckily, it did have a happy ending. And shortly before we recorded this episode, he was given permission to continue doing what he's doing. And he said that he doesn't have to really censor himself or anything. They're not making him water down his show. So that's great to hear. And from what I've seen online, it does sound like Jason Asbis had a part to play in this deal being made. I think he understood how important it was to have a show like this. Because to be honest, like, I know we've talked about it many times how great his recap show is. And it's like, even if I watch an entire live stream of a PPA event, I'm still going to go and watch his thing just because I want to see his take on it. And it brought up a big conversation about the whole fair rights usage and stuff like that. And it seems like that's a very gray area when it comes to legally if somebody has the right to do a show like Chris was doing. Because I feel like because he's on the screen the whole time, he's talking about it, he's doing commentary. So it's not like he's acting like this footage and content is his own. He's openly saying, here's the footage from so-and-so, and let's go over and see what happened. And then he would just point out certain things that happened, certain highlights, funny moments that happened. So to me, that falls under fair rights use. But I just don't know, like, if it ended up going to court, I don't know if he would win. Like, do you happen to be familiar enough to know, like, would he, like, if this went to court, would he be able to win a fair rights usage trial?
I think you mean fair use, right? Is that?
Oh, yeah, fair use, yeah.
Yeah, so I do consider myself to be pretty well educated when it comes to fair use. But what I will say is, from what I've experienced, it's really on the person putting out the content that somebody is claiming is their own to prove that it's fair use. And a lot of the companies like YouTube, for example, they are going to err on the side of the company that is claiming that you are copywriting their material, then kind of giving the benefit of the doubt to the person who is using that material. So in this situation, when you ask the question of if Chris would have gone to court, would he have won? I don't know. But regardless of that, let's just talk about how he gets his content out there. YouTube is his main audience, right? And YouTube is likely going to side with UPA and the company that they hired to basically get his content removed, because they're going to err on the side of the claimant in that situation. And then it's on Chris to be able to go through, and it's a battle. Meanwhile, he's spending his time fighting a battle rather than creating content. So the question of whether we win in court, I don't know. The question is to whether or not, if they didn't come to an agreement, would this have still possibly ended his channel? It very likely could have, because he would have been focusing his efforts on just staying alive and trying to keep his content up versus actually creating new content, which would have probably destroyed him anyway. So that's kind of where I think it would have landed if they hadn't struck a deal together without a big change in the whole ecosystem of YouTube and how they handle stuff like this.
Yeah, and like I said, luckily, I do want to give credit where credit's due. UPA, they did come to an agreement with Chris, and Chris is allowed to continue doing that. So I definitely want to thank you guys for allowing him to do that, because I would have been very bummed. So would have many, many people if he was not allowed to continue doing what he was doing. But it still bothers me, the fact that he even got the cease and desist. Like, who made that decision? Why did they think what he's doing is bad? Now, when I will play devil's advocate, I could see maybe they might think that people will watch his recap and not watch their live streams. But I really think a majority of the people that tune into his show, they're diehard fans to where they will watch the live stream and watch his recap. There's been some times where I didn't get a chance to watch the live stream and I watched his recap, but I was not going to go back and watch the live stream anyways. So that's like,
Yes.
To me, when it comes to sports with me, if I don't watch a sporting event live, I do not want to watch the whole event afterwards. I'm going to watch recaps. I'm going to watch highlights. I do not want to watch something that already happened, especially when it comes to sports.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with you. Pickleball is still at its infancy right now, and we have to think of this from a perspective of any visibility onto the sport is good for everyone. And I have been very critical of UPA in the past for basically trying to cut a lot of people out that are really trying to help grow it. And don't get me wrong, there's a very big difference between people who are literally stealing content and claiming it as their own, as to what Chris does or what Memes of Pickleball does or what we have done in the past, where we've taken part of perhaps a PPA or MLP or APP live stream and we've turned it into a meme. Those are very different. I am 100% on board with any organization going after anybody with the full extent of the law if they are stealing their content and passing it off on their own. It's happened to me. It's happened, I kind of manage Simone's YouTube channel. It's happened on her YouTube channel where people have literally downloaded their videos and re-uploaded them on their own. It's happened to us with previous live streams that we've done. That's bad. That's wrong.
Yes.
And that I feel like it's pretty black and white. This is a gray area. And again, I think we're at the point right now to where we have to realize that any eyeballs in the sport is good for everyone. So when it comes to the whole get off my lawn mentality or that's mine, not yours, I don't think there's much value in that. And to your point too, Webby, you're not going to go back and rewatch a live stream, right? So at least with what Chris is doing, it's bringing eyeballs to the sport. Any of the sponsors that are on, that have signage up there, any of the players that are wearing clothing with, that have sponsor logos on it, paddles, you're still going to get eyeballs on that. So it's still good for the sponsors to have additional content outside of their own. And I do think that most people are like you, especially when it comes to pickleball. I'm not going to go back and rewatch a 10-hour live stream from the weekend before if I didn't watch it live. Now, if we move to the point to where maybe it's more like a league where you have like 2-hour matches, kind of like what Tuesday Night Pickleball was doing, where it's more easily digestible, you can plan for it, I might then at that point want to go back and rewatch the entire event. But guess what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be fast forwarding through the commercials when that happens. So
Yep.
now the whole reason for sponsors to want to be able to come in and to be able to say, well, if they're using your content, they're not going to go back and watch the stream. Yeah, but if I'm going to go back and rewatch, I'm going to fast forward through your commercials. So it's not going to
Yep.
matter anyway. So I think there's very little substance behind the concept of we don't want people like Chris doing what they're doing because it's going to hinder the sport. I don't think that's a true statement.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. But thank you once again, UPA, for allowing Chris to continue doing what he's doing. We are huge fans of Sorry Not Sorry, and so are many other pickleball fans. So pro pickleball would not be the same without Sorry Not Sorry in the pickleball space. So very glad that that had a happy outcome. But then that brings us to the final thing I wanted to bring up, and this is what could be the most controversial, if it's true. There's kind of a gray cloud hovering over UPA at the moment regarding the paddle approving situation. Have you heard much about what's going on with that?
I really don't have much knowledge at all about this.
I can only speak to what the rumblings have been online, so take that with a grain of salt, but I do think it's still important to talk about. So some of the allegations that are being thrown around is that UPA doesn't really have a good and reliable way to test paddles, and that if you pay a large enough sum of money, that there's an increased chance of getting your paddle approved. So if there's any bit that it's true that a company can just pay a certain amount of money and get approved, that normally probably wouldn't have passed the usual tests for approval, that's absolutely horrible. Something like that should not be tolerated, and that could cause major, major problems. What do you think about that? Like, if it was revealed that that was true, like what kind of reaction, or what kind of result could happen from something like that?
Well, all right. Here's the thing. I actually have a little bit of sympathy or empathy for these paddle manufacturers. It's still the Wild West. Rules are changing. Now you have two governing bodies with potentially two different sets of standards that you have to meet in order to be able to get your paddle approved. So the landscape of paddle manufacturers is getting more and more challenging. The benefit to this is that I do think that the number of manufacturers is going to tighten up a bit. I think it's gotten a little bit extreme to the detriment of the sport, but I also think that everybody should have the ability to be able to have their products used in professional and amateur pickleball. The whole concept of a backroom deal to be able to get your paddle approved, if that's true, which I'm not saying it is,
Right.
if that's true, that's bad. That's bad for everybody involved. That's just completely unethical behavior. I don't think that there's any room for that in the sport. Again, I'm a purist. I believe that pickleball was kind of built as an antithesis to tennis. And when I associate tennis with things, I associate it with big corporations, right? And pickleball is kind of that grassroots backyard barbecue type of sport that I think we need to stick with. So if that kind of stuff is going on, that's bad. Again, I have not heard anything about it, so I can't tell you whether it's true or not. Webby, I guess my question is how likely do you think that did take place?
Oh man, that's tough because just based on the track record of PPA and a lot of questionable decisions in the past, I wouldn't be too surprised to hear if it's true. I really hope it's not true. And if it isn't true, I feel like it would be very easy for UPA to fix this. I feel like all they would need to do is just like clearly show what their process is for approving paddles. That should be public knowledge anyway. Just show the tests that you do, show how you do these tests, and just make it very clear cut if you want your paddle to get approved to be played in UPA events, which is PPA and Major League Pickleball. Just make it crystal clear what they do. And I feel like that, there you go. Easy solution right there. But based on things that are being talked about online, it seems like that's not the case. And for the fact that a major paddle company would write a very long, detailed letter about what they saw was wrong that they seen. And again, like this is something I saw online, so take it for a grain of salt. I'm not saying this is absolutely true. I'm just talking about like if this is true, I feel like it's important to discuss. But it sounds like it should be fixable very easily for UPA if they can just demonstrate how they do the approval process and make it be well known and make it public and make everybody know like what it is that they do to approve the paddles.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that getting arms around paddles is important. And I think that having standards, having testing, but also working with these paddle manufacturers to where you are being transparent, putting it in crystal clear language, what's in, what's not, what's acceptable, what's not, is going to ultimately help things.
Yeah, and I think the approval process, it's very important, especially if you listen to any of the podcasts that are hosted by professional pickleball players. Almost all of them talk about how really de-weaponizing the serve and like changing the rules to de-weaponize the serve really shouldn't be the focus. The focus should be the paddles that people are using, because that's really the reason why people even want to address the serve being such a weapon, is because some of the paddles that are out there dance the line of being legal or not. And it's just the whole thing. Like, we really need some good set standards for which paddles get approved, which paddles are legal. And I think once that is established, things will be in much better shape.
I agree. I think pickleball is unique in the fact that most other sports, as they become mature, they change the manufacturing standards to make the equipment, I don't want to say more challenging, but not giving the professional players an advantage. And I think we're at that point in pickleball right now to where the paddles, and I'm not even going to say it's the paddles, Webby. I mean, Zane Navratil has thrown out, let's change the ball. Can't we change the ball technology to make it to where it's not coming off the paddle as hot, as it is, or making it to where what kind of paddle you're using has less impact in the game? Maybe it's a different area that we focus on from an equipment perspective, but we need to get to the point to where the equipment matches what the needs of the pros are to put on the best show possible. Because at the end of the day, it's sports entertainment. And I agree with you. I think the way that these paddles are going, it's not as entertaining to watch either.
Yep, I totally agree. Very well said. But that's it for my topic for the week. I thought this was a very fun, very action-packed 75th episode of Dinking Around with Eddie and Webby.
That's right. And guys, if you like other action-packed stuff, you need to definitely check out products from our friends over at Jigsaw Health. Webby, tell me how you like to stay hydrated.
Well, my favorite way to stay hydrated is to get a bottle of water, pour in a packet of Fruit Punch Electrolyte Supreme from Jigsaw Health. I like to enjoy one of those when I first start playing pickleball, and if I get hot and sweaty enough, I like to enjoy another one when I'm done playing pickleball, and it makes me feel great, and I have not had any dehydration issues since I started using that method.
Well, I got to tell you what, I also love their pickleball cocktail. The blue raspberry flavor is my favorite as well. It helps me stay hydrated. Even when I'm not playing pickleball, I enjoy it. But I also enjoy plenty of other products from our friends over at Jigsaw Health. I take it on a daily basis. And guys, it's good to support companies that are into pickleball. The people at Jigsaw Health are absolutely obsessed with pickleball, so much so that they created their own indoor venue, The Orchard at Jigsaw Health, started their own professional pickleball league. They're just obsessed with pickleball. Go to jigsawhealth.com. Use coupon code PB for life 10 to get what, Webby?
You're going to get yourself $10 off your order, and you'll show us some support in the process.
That's right. We appreciate it very much. And Webby, I also would like to appreciate hearing your closing thoughts.
So what did we learn today? We learned that almost all of us have experienced a couple that plays pickleball together that seems like they absolutely hate each other. Also, our condolences go out to Federico Staxrud, who, as Memes of Pickleball showed us, had a bit of an incident on the pickleball court. We're all thinking about you, Fed. We also learned that pro pickleball is changing quite a bit, so much so that we're not even sure Ben and Collin are going to be able to remain a dominant team in the world of men's doubles. And we discussed a few things going on in the United Pickleball Association that not a lot of people agree with. Are they going to be able to change things for the better? Only time will tell.
Well, let us know what you think down in the comments below. We definitely want to interact with you guys. That was episode number 75 of Dinking Around with Eddie and Webby. Hope you enjoyed it. And on that note, I'm Eddie.
And until next time, this is Webby, not Eddie, signing off.
See ya.
Well, we're dinking around with Eddie and Webby. Dinking around with Eddie and Webby tonight.
Oh yeah.